On my channel, I've covered the history of many of Vivziepop's oldest projects. Some of these old shows were cancelled, put on hiatus, or repurposed into other works. Recently, I was able to find information about yet another cancelled project from Vivzi. This one is even more obscure than the rest, but has its own lore, plot, and cast of characters. In this video, I'm going to talk about the history of Vivziepop's first series pitch, The Secret Heart of Kiki. So, the story takes us back to 2014. Around this time, Vivzi was working on her Zootopia webcomic. On July 2nd, 2014, over on Tumblr, Vivzi announced a new project she was working on. We can see a couple images of characters in the project and a link to a pitch bible on Amazon Studios. The link is dead, but I was able to find a copy of the pitch bible. This is super interesting because the only times I've seen pitch bibles for Vivzi's projects were for Hazbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss. The fact that this project had one means a significant amount of work went into the story. So for this next section, I'm going to go through the pitch bible page by page. I'll narrate what's on screen and give my thoughts as well. So, on the first page, we can see the title of the show. We have some sketches in the background and an image of Kiki, the protagonist of the show. Underneath, it says it's created by Drew Ford and Vivian Medrano. I was unable to find out any info about Drew. Moving on to the second page, we can see some information about the main cast. Up first is Kiki. Kiki seems like the girl next door, except for one key point. She loves everyone and everything to momentous extremes. So much so, in fact, that her love somehow developed into a superpower of sorts, able to calm and eventually tame the most savage or evil of beasts. At times, she might seem a bit naive, as she continually questions how some people can be so mean. Upon further investigation, however, she eventually discovers that people's meanness comes from the fact that they are somehow unhappy and don't have enough love in their lives, something which she is much more happy to remedy, in between slaying a slew of nasty creatures, of course. Up next is Dr. Howard Halfpenny. He is an extremely clumsy, yet highly competent research scientist and inventor. Unfortunately, his intelligence doesn't stop him from continually making mistakes, big and small, in his daily work. At the same time, for as many decades as anyone can remember, his family has been responsible for travelling the world, recapturing all the evil that was once set free from Pandora's box. For Halfpenny's part in all of this, he simply needed to keep the box safely shut. Of course, the klutz that he is accidentally opens the box, setting free all of the terrible creatures it holds inside. He feels incredibly guilty and is totally committed to recapturing every single evil thing that he mistakenly released into the world. He is very grateful to discover Kiki's ability and believes that her suddenly showing up in Key City when he opened Pandora's box is no coincidence. In the original story of Pandora's box, after the box had been opened and all the evil had been set free, the last thing to come out from the bottom of the box was hope. The original storyteller believed that hope is not needed until evil exists. Moving into page 3, we see some supporting cast. First is Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Smith is an intern who not so accidentally comes to be assigned to Dr. Halfpenny's laboratory. As soon as she arrived at the museum, she formed a huge crush on Halfpenny and made sure she would be spending her time helping him. As it turns out, she's highly competent, so even though he never knows how to deal with her constant winks and giggles, he ends up relying on her quite heavily, especially when it comes to capturing monsters. The second character is Mr. Cranberry. Mr. Cranberry is Kiki's dog. He was licking her face the first time she woke up in Key City, and he's stuck by her side ever since. Although he appears young, he carries with him an old soul, evidenced by the incredibly wise advice he always shares with Kiki. Also, he always knows when someone is lying or telling the truth, and Kiki is the only one who can hear him speak. This allows for some pretty funny conversations between Halfpenny, Kiki, and her dog, where the dog keeps feeding her information and Halfpenny can't understand how she knows all this stuff. On page 4, we have some more supporting cast members. The first is Sonia. Also, fun fact about this character, Sonia was originally in Vivzi's Zootopia series. Sonia, the centaur girl. Shy, cautious, worrisome, and timid, Sonia has a hard time seeing the bright side of situations. She often opts for the side of doubt. She's one of Kiki's first real friends, and she has helped her to come out of her shell and see the good things thanks to Kiki. She is smart and calculated and helps Kiki fight monsters from a more intelligent angle. Next is Mitchell. Mitchell, the harpy boy. Loud, rambunctious, a bit of a cocky show-off. Mitch hides his insecurities behind a facade of confidence and an almost bully-like attitude. He is the second person Kiki befriends, and he kind of teases her and Sonia, who often bickers with him. But deep down, all he really wants is to be loved and have friends. He is devious and quick-witted and agile, which is helpful to Kiki when he helps her defeat things from the box. The next character is Serby, the Cerberus. This monster has a cuddly side. While Serby can grow very large and very menacing when it is upset or threatened, it really is just a cuddly, curious puppy looking for a new friend, a good ally for the side of Kiki and her dog. On page 5, we're on to the villains. First is Dusa. Dusa is a fashionista, obsessed with all things glamorous and attractive. She has an extreme distaste for anything that isn't perfect and to her level of beautiful. She often hides her dangerous eyes behind a number of differing and fashionable glasses. Although there are a number of snakes growing out of her hair, one in particular named Stripe, who likes to criticize her every move, proving to sometimes be a real pain in her butt. Next is Klops. He's uppity, uptight, with French flair and devious intent. He's the commander in charge of a number of evil monsters that came from the box. He's very easily tricked, but is also very quick to act with a temper that would level buildings. He also has a bit of a crush on Dusa and often works alongside her to spread the evil. Page 6 is an overview of the plot and story. The logline says, after a bumbling young scientist unleashes the ancient contents of Pandora's box, it's up to Key City's newest champion, the Heart, to tame all manner of foul beast and monster before they overtake the world. Luckily, she has the power of love on her side. Underneath is a more in-depth summary. It starts off with, a kind yet bumbling young scientist, Dr. Howard Halfpenny, employed by Key City's Museum of Antiquities and other historical minutiae, is charged, like his ancestors before him, with the task of keeping the infamous Pandora's box shut tight. Unfortunately, being the klutz that he is, he instead accidentally knocks it open. Of course, all the legendary evil you would expect from such an artifact comes spilling out, filling the surrounding city with sorts of villains and creepy crawlies. On the right we have an image. It says the Key City Museum of Antiquities and other historical minutiae. Underneath is more text. It says, soon after, a young girl wakes up in Key City, having no idea where she came from. Almost immediately, she comes face to face with one of the monstrosities from the box. Miraculously, she is able to defeat it through what she discovers is her superpowered love. Dr. Halfpenny happens to witness this and realizes that this young girl can help fix his mistake. Luckily, Dr. Halfpenny is a brilliant young inventor and he begins developing all sort of slick monster capturing devices to aid Kiki in her battle against these ghoulish incarnations. Together, they battle the forces of evil with a host of high-tech tools and a supernatural love that can't be beat. Evil beware, somebody loves you. To the left, we see Kiki and Howard Halfpenny in front of a monster. Kiki looks to be giving it an apple. This creature was seen in another image posted by Viv. At the very bottom is some more info about the series. The Secret Heart of Kiki is an action-adventure with comedy elements. We are shooting for 22-minute episodes, and currently we feel it is unique in the animated television landscape. Although we feel it would work well with a younger audience, it would also be enjoyable to a wide variety of viewers. With Kiki's power of love as the focal point, and Halfpenny's inventive spirit and high-tech toys rounding out the edges, we feel this show would be equally relatable to boys and girls of all ages. On page 7 we can see some character sketches. There's the two we saw before. At the top right is a new one. We can see Kiki and Dr. Halfpenny in a museum looking at the Pandora's box. At the very bottom are a few sketches of some characters in the show. On page 8 we have the episode Springboards. If you don't know what a springboard is typically a paragraph long synopsis of the episode idea without any of the more minute details or story beats. So since there's 6 points, that means the show would likely have 6 episodes. Number 1. A wish-granting statue in the Key City Park entices children to make wishes, but the statue is really a depressed monster trapped by a curse, and Kiki and company must stop kids from making wishes before it's too late. Number 2. A monster hiding in human form and sent by Klops claims to be a long-lost relative of Halfpenny in the hopes of getting his hands on the Pandora's box. Kiki and company must figure out who this mysterious stranger really is before Halfpenny makes a terrible mistake. 3. An ancient monster seeks revenge on Klops for an injustice from long ago, and Klops finds himself in need of his enemy Kiki's help to calm the savage beast. 4. When Miss Smith is turned invisible while secretly trying on a fancy pair of Deuce's designer sunglasses, an agent of the government abducts her, and Kiki and company must find a way, with Deuce's help, only because she wants her sunglasses back, to set her free and make the government agent forget what he saw. Number 5. Klopp sends one of his more clever thugs to hypnotize a bank teller into handing over a large sum of money from the bank. When this happens more than once, Kiki and company are alerted and must find out why Klopp suddenly needs so much money. And lastly we have number 6. When Sonia pretends to be abducted, Mitchell's true feelings for her are revealed when he begs Kiki and Halfpenny to help him rescue her from the not-so-dangerous clutches of Serby. And lastly we have an image of the cast of the show. Here's the 5 extra images that Viv included in the follow-up post from earlier. So with the show's plot, premise and characters analysed, it's time to get into why it was cancelled. While doing research I was unable to find any further updates from Viv. There's a chance she made some on her old Tumblr account, however many of those posts got deleted so I couldn't find any archives. What we do know is that Viv pitched the idea to an unknown company and the pitch likely fell through. What I think happened is that after Viv's pitch was declined, she put the idea on hold while working on Zootopia and her other projects. Viv was so busy working on the rest of her ideas that the secret of Kiki was lost to time. There's a chance that Viv will return to the series in the future and reboot it. However, that'll probably happen once Hazbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss are wrapped up. Overall, I think the concept was quite intriguing. It reminds me a bit of Timber, where it would attract a younger audience, but could be enjoyed by everyone. Out of the cast, my favourite character is definitely Dusa. She reminds me a lot of Serpentius. The Secret Heart of Kiki also would have taken place on Earth with several human characters, which I think helps to differentiate it from Viv's other projects. So in conclusion, The Secret Heart of Kiki was a fun first series pitch from Viv that sadly never got past the early concept stages. I hope in the future Viv returns to the series and perhaps gives it a chance. If you enjoyed the video or have any thoughts on the show, let me know in the comments section down below. Special thanks to Mia Snyder for the video suggestion. Thanks for watching.